Stoya Singh, and today on the show we're diving into a meeting between two world leaders, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. But we're not going to be talking about geopolitics, military alliances or economic strategy.
This time, we're going to talk about a chat they had about longevity, not just in power, but in life itself. What does it mean to, what does it take to remain not just relevant, but also virtually untouchable? We'll pose the same question that you can perhaps ask in the same context without crossing lines you shouldn't. We'll talk about it with our experts and really bring out the broader conversations that are taking place across the world over longevity. What more can be done? What's ethical? What's really crossing the line? We first up take you through the headlines. Good morning, I'm XiJinping.
Okay, first up, as we promised, that discussion between two world leaders sparking a larger conversation, but longevity is not a new conversation. Brian, as you've seen in the US, Brian Johnson spreading awareness around his protocol, but we ask, is living to 150 years possible? Cell markers reveal true age, but what else does one need to do? We take a look at both the science and the myth behind longevity.
And well, who's left out of health tech? Can tech heal a billion lives? We take this conversation, we take you all the way back to AI, technology in healthcare and its entire universe. What does ethical AI for India look like? Toya gets you this conversation from the Goa Health Tech Summit 2025.
And then after that, author Ranjit Radhakrishnan on writing the unwritable. What do we mean when we say that? The story of divinity and violence in one avatar. These are questions that cut deeper than the axe. Stay with us for this conversation. Let's start you off with a moment first. Beijing's Grand Parade. What slipped out on a hot mic between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin was about living to 150 years. A conversation they were both having about organ transplants, biotech, and even the idea of immortality. That one casual chat has touched on some of the oldest questions of humankind. How long can we live, and what kind of life would that life be if we got to live it? Now, science says that life expectancy has changed dramatically in just the last few years. In 1950, for example, if you just took a look at the world average, it was 46 years old. Today, that is over 73. Researchers that track aging not just by birthdays, they also use other things. What we're going to talk about today is something called cellular markers, telomeres that shorten with age, DNA methylation patterns that act as epigenetic clocks, mitochondrial decline that weakens energy. What all of this means, we will decode for you.
Some scientists insist 150 is possible with discipline, with a proper diet and proper sleep. Others argue the cap is closer to 120 currently. But science isn't the only lens. History, scripture have also had with the same obsession. In Mahabharata, for instance, King Yayati tried to borrow youth from his sons only to discover at the end of the road that endless desire leads to emptiness. Asuras performed penance for immortality. Ravana, for instance, demanded it as a boon, but the lesson was always clear. Our ancient texts have had it, whoever is born will one day die. The Puranas tell us humans in earlier yugas were taller, stronger, they live longer. Ayurveda offers its own take. Ayurveda talks about the legend of sage Chavan, gave us Chavanprash, a preparation to slow aging and preserve vitality.
And that actually touches on a very important point. The diet and lifestyle carry their own wisdom. Local food, seasonal eating, natural living. It has helped people with age, with less disease, with decay and preventing it. So the question we want to take a look at today is not just around long life. It's the idea of also living a full life. Legacy matters as much as longevity. What you leave behind may be more important than how you celebrate your birthdays. And if you just take a look at modern athletes, you have Novak Djokovic, for example, who was playing till 38. James Anderson bowling in Test cricket at 41. Brad Hogg playing till 44. These are all reminders that discipline and mindset can stretch performance years, but also that our athletes could be older than ever now with the help of newer technology and science.
So let's get back to the question we're really trying to ask. Take back the conversation to Xi Jinping and Putin's stray remark, can humans really live to 150? And if we could, should we? Is the goal to just extend life or to make sure those extra years are healthy, they're purposeful and meaningful?
Okay, so to explore all of this, first up, to bring us the science around it all, we have Dr. Prasoon Chatterjee. He's one of India's leading geriatricians. Doctor, good morning. Thank you for joining us here on the show. And you've worked extensively on this idea of healthy aging, doctor. So we'll just come to you first and just ask you very basically to explain to us, when you study age in the human body, what are you looking for in the cell under the microscope, or when you're studying? What are the biomarkers per se?
So, as I understand, the discussion is on whether we can live up to 150 years or not. I think very interesting and thought-provoking ideas. But my first take would be yes. The answer is yes, it is possible. I will come to your question, but before that, you have to understand when our life expectancy in 1800, average life expectancy was 30 to 40 years. That time also, those who are religious practitioner and many people who used to practice a healthy lifestyle, including their diet, calorie restriction, and a large amount of exercise. It was a compulsion to walk because that time we didn't have flight and all these things. So they could able to reach up to 100. So that is a fact. And similarly, today also I see a lot of, I have at least 10 plus 100 plus people who are coming to me, and they reach 100 by chance, not by preparation. So definitely with preparation we can reach that. Regarding your question, there are around, globally studies have shown there are around 12 hallmarks of aging. We call it as hallmark. That is the process which is making you old. That ranges from your DNA instability. Most of us know about DNA, the coil inside our cell. Then there is telomere shortening, what you mentioned just now, which is the cap in the DNA. Then there are mitochondrial dysfunction, we call it as powerhouse of cell. Similarly, there are intracellular communication. I'll not go in that detail, but yes, there are changes. But few important changes with aging. What happened is, what we see is the old cell which is not dying, which is not cleaning, just like our garbage of our house. They are the most dangerous. We call it as senescent cell, and they sit in the corner of the house called cell and releases toxin, and which manifest as frailty, dementia, Parkinsonism. Most of the disease, age-related disease, nowadays scientists has found out most of the disease are related to all these hallmark, including your gut microbiome. So I am conducting a study, started from AIMS. Initially I was in AIMS, now I'm in Artemis, where we are seeing all these 12 hallmark, first from India, where I am following 0 to 100 years, from cord blood to 100 years blood, along with lot of clinical variable, around 500 variable we are looking at. And surprisingly, I am seeing someone who has reached 100, his gut microbiome is as good as who's got 20's gut microbiome. In my cohort, there are some 20 plus people also. So this is very, very interesting. Someone who reach up to 100, they could able to maintain their cell as young as 20. So, and that happened, as I told you, that happened without any preparation. They are mostly, they have seen the partition, they have seen a lot of riots, they have starved because food was not that plenty, that time. And most of they are from family of farmer family. And in India, we talk about blue zone globally. In India, most of the centenarian are from tribal population. So you understand how they are close to the nature, and so you are more close to nature. You sleep a lot, you eat healthy, you don't torture your body with a lot of stress, which is unnecessary stress. Little stress is healthy, but more stress is a problem.
Okay. So Japan, for instance, now it's crossed 100,000 in number. So they have 100,000 people right now currently who are aged 100 years and above, and that's remarkable in itself. That's being seen as a model, Dr. Chatterjee. Tell us overall, what's the current scientific consensus on maximum human lifespan? We're talking about 150. A lot of people have passed off this commentary between Xi Jinping and Putin as simple banter, two world leaders not willing to accept that, they're going to have to let go of their hot seats as yet. But there are those who've looked at it with another lens, and that's why we're having this conversation. Do you think it's 120, 150, and where does India stand?
See, there is no magic number. I cannot categorically tell you. Many scientists are claiming that, but you know, if you see that I joined AIMS in 2010. Then I used to get let's say hardly 10 out of 100 patients who are 80 plus, right? But now 80 plus globally is the fastest growing population. And again, I'm repeating, they have not reached 80 by preparation; they have reached by chance. So why not someone who is, and most of the studies have shown, even if you have a chance, if you are in your 40s, to rectify your small changes in your lifestyle, which can do miracle. And just like SIP in financial sector, you can invest in your health through religiously working, having less food, having good sleep, controlling your stress as much you can, and know the science. Don't go by the infodemics. I'm sorry to say, many YouTubers are propagating a lot of message which are not at all scientific. Like they listen to somebody and they just propagate because they have some viewers. So we have to be careful on that. And yes, I will not comment about 120, 150, 120, nearing 120. Many people are reaching there. You may not trust them because Aadhaar card was not that time very, Aadhaar card or voter ID. We don't know. So many people come to me and say, Dr. Saab, इनका तो उम्र 100 क्रॉस हो गया but आधार कार्ड में 92 है. Then I am following them for 10 years. So they have already reached 110. So again, but they didn't have that great, so-called great medical science. But yes, now we are much more, I will say, knowledgeable. We understand the hallmark. Now I prescribe my patient diet not as per his food, but as per his or her stool metagenomics. So we can go that level. These are all science. It is possible to reach 150. So I fully endorse. I'm a totally apolitical person, but I fully endorse. Yes, that ambition is practical. Okay. Unlike Mahabharata time when there was that I will not vouch for immortality, but yes, 150 is possible, and healthy living is possible. What we call as health span, not the lifespan alone.
Doctor, I want to ask you a bit of a controversial question now. I'm aware it's a controversial question and a naughty question by some standards. But I do want to ask you, there are some in the audience who will make one argument that they know so many people who live so healthily but still in their 50s and 60s get different kinds of cancers despite not drinking and despite not smoking. On the other side, we see examples of people who smoke. Famous photos of grandmothers sitting around in Greece, for example, and saying, look, we smoked into our 80s, 90s, live your life, enjoy your life. Now, in no way are we advocating either of those things on this show this morning, but I do want to understand what your perspective is on the big smoking, the big drinking question.
So first question is very, very genuine and which is happening nowadays, you understand. But for those who are in 40s or 50s having sudden massive cardiac arrest or a cancer, you have to, if we deep dive, we'll definitely get, you have to understand one thing, 30% is your gene. So someone's whose parents have lived up to 90 or 100 by chance, I'm telling by chance because medical science has not held that time, but they have a high chance to cross 100 even if they are drinking, smoking little bit. I'm not vouching here for drinking, smoking, but they have. So I tell my patient that people used to say my parents has given me a lot of financial security. But whether you are blessed with the great gene of your parents, that is most important nowadays. Yes. So that is one group. So they have some amount of buffer to torture their body. I can say it's a very bad term, but yes, they are the social media hero now. But unlike them who are dying early, I'm sure most of them have not done. You may say they go for annual health checkup, but you have to understand one thing: annual health checkup is a very, very cross-sectional assessment. So you have some plaque in the heart, coronary angio will pick that. If you have something which is happening, a chronic low-grade inflammation in your cell, your mitochondria is getting exhausted, your telomere is progressively shortening much faster. Are you aware that people check their telomere routinely? I'm sure the answer is no. Yeah. So are you aware that how their gut microbiome is doing? But again, having said so, human body is the most complex in the universe. So it may happen that Few of them are nowadays we are starting in Artemis Hospital. We are starting very soon biological aging. That means your cellular aging, which may be absolutely different than your calendar aging. So someone you must have heard during COVID crisis, someone was walking in the cycle and had a massive cardiac event because maybe he had already a venous thrombosis in his leg, a clot in the vein of the leg, and that has been dislodged when you are doing rigorous exercise, and it went and it blocked the pulmonary artery, causes pulmonary and cardiac event. So there must be something which has not been diagnosed. To be very honest, after spending two decades with healthy people, because I consider myself, my mental age is like 80 plus now, seeing so many 80 plus, it's very, very unlikely that you have no risk factor. Again, if you see cancer in 40s means there must be a pedigree analysis which will show their parents, their grandparents, their aunt, uncle family must be having some form of cancer.
Okay, doctor, I also then want to ask you, you spoke of how there's modern science now, there's so many other parameters that must be weighed in on. You listed out some of those parameters for us. Can I then ask you the Brian Johnson question? Because there are those pioneering in longevity, their models are being spoken of. The fact that they're wearing these helmets, they're talking about plasma transfusion, so many other mechanisms in place, it's quite intimidating, at least the sound of all of this. So for anyone who's tracking the journey of Brian Johnson, for instance, what would you say, where do you stand on this, and what is the correct way of looking at longevity and ensuring that you're doing the right thing for your body and mind at the right age?
See, I will go back to again the story of our Vedic age. You follow them when they survive more than 100 years without any medical help. So their pathway was right. And now there are, if you ask me, n number of studies shows that if you restrict your calorie, you are better. There are n number of studies shows if you have 7 to 8 hours sleep every day, you are better. If you exercise daily, and again, this is like a compounding, we called SIP as eighth wonder. I say health investment plan must be the best wonder in the world. You never know. I have not seen a 80 plus person who is not walking daily in the park or in the village for last 20 years. So there is no magic here. I don't fully endorse, of course, a lot of.
So you're saying there are certain common habits, common traits associated with everyone in 80s, 90s who's very healthy and very active?
Yes.
What are these traits?
That is only I'm mentioning. They have a healthy diet. They are pure vegetarian. They didn't have the taste of McD or Pizza Hut, so they still don't like that. They don't drink Pepsi. So their food is like that. They walk every day because they are mostly from farmer family. They have seen the hard way of life. Then they sleep well.
Doctor, have to ask you. Sorry, you said vegetarian right now. But non-vegetarian, and in particular protein, and I'm talking about a healthy non-vegetarian, someone who is making sure they're getting their protein through different means, one would assume that would give you a longer life, no?
So again, science has shown veg food has also a lot of protein, right?
Right.
But non-veg food contains more protein, more quality protein, so-called quality protein. But all quality things may not be healthy for your cell. So there are few amino acid which is there in most of the non-veg protein is bad for your body, especially your cell, which causes more inflammation in your body. One of the mechanism of aging is subtle, chronic, low-grade inflammation. But I must respond to the Brian Johnson question. Most of the celebrity like him, what they are doing has not been created that much evidence.
Yeah.
You have to understand most of the biologists who are
he's in fact gone back on some certain medicines, anti-aging medicines that he was taking because it didn't succeed.
Yes. That was rapamycin. Yes, rapamycin is a good drug, no doubt. But again, in medical science, we do randomized control trial in millions of population in multiple centers globally. What works for you may not work for me.
Doctor, we are unfortunately running out of time. If we could just quickly ask you, it's not a long question, what % of our age is determined by our genetics and what % by the way we treat ourselves? If you had to give us a rough number.
But 30-70. 30% is your gene and 70% your lifestyle. But again, I will stress here, don't go by celebrity recommended medication. None of the anti-aging medication has been recommended until we are going through not rigorous process. And what works in mice, monkey may not works for you. So please don't go for that trap. And there is no magic wine here that I will take Ozempic for a few months, few years, and I will lose weight and then I'll enjoy my life. No, there will be rebound weight gain, and that will be massive for you.
Okay, so there's no quick fix to looking healthier, feeling healthier, and living a longer life. Thank you so much, Dr. Chatterjee. Thank you for really simplifying this entire story for us. Since you spoke of the historical context here, let's go across to our second guest joining us this morning, Ami Ganatra, author and commentator, who brings the perspective of our scriptures and philosophies with us. Good morning, Ami. Hope you're doing well. Let's touch upon, what history has for us in place. Tell us a little bit about some of these references to human longevity that we find in ancient texts, Vedas, Puranas, and what does that story essentially lay out for us, since we're talking about this headline-making conversation between XiJinping and Vladimir Putin.
So, good morning. Suprabhatam to all of you. Thank you for having me for this very interesting and exciting topic. I think forever, human mind or human being has wanted to become immortal and has wanted to increase their lifespan. It has happened forever. And you see these stories come again and again and again in our scriptures. One very famous one is of Yayati. So Yayati is a king and he has 5 children. And he wants to enjoy his life. He wants to enjoy his youth, because it's in your youth when you really enjoy the pleasures of life. So once he starts getting old, he reaches out to his sons and he says, why don't you exchange your youth with me? And if you exchange your youth with me, I will give you some vardhan, I'll give you some blessings. So 4 of his sons refuse, because they're like, no, why should we trade our youth with you? This is a time of action, this is a time of pleasure. Eventually, one of his sons, Puru, he trades his youth. So another lots of years, Yayati enjoys his youth and enjoys all the pleasures of life and everything, only to realize what Upanishads always say, that there is no end to desire. There is no end to pleasure seeking. We say, Trishna na jirna vayave vijena. There is no end. The desire never reduces. We get reduced and we die, but the desire doesn't reduce. So eventually he says, okay, I've realized the truth of life, that at some point you have to let go and accept things that come your way, the reality of life that comes your way. So then he says, okay, now I'm happy, and he lets go of that youth and lets his son enjoy and become the king and all that. So this is one of those stories, but there are so many like these.
I also want to ask you, Ami, it feels like growing up, we've heard of all of these different examples of sages in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, who were living till 150, 150 plus.
Fighting wars at 80, 90.
And being very strong while doing so. What has your research found about these figures? Tell us a little bit more about that.
If you've observed, whenever we wish somebody a happy birthday, in Sanskrit you will say Shatayu Bhava or Jivet Sharadha Shatam. So they'll say live 100 years or enjoy 100 autumns. So what does it mean? That in general, the concept of a full life in the Shastras is about 100 years. So 100 years, so hey, that much we anyways consider. That's a full life. And yes, we have seen sages who've lived a lot more than that. We don't exactly know how long they lived, but by and large, we definitely know that Bhishma had a very long life. We had Vedvyas ji had a very long life, right? One of the reasons that could have, now this is an assumption based on the yoga research that I have done. We have a concept called as pranayama, okay, which is extension of your breath. And it is believed that every person is born with a finite number of breaths. Now this I'm talking philosophically, as what yoga would say, that everybody is born with a finite number of breaths. So one breath is inhalation and exhalation. Now, if you can manage to extend the inhalation and exhalation, obviously you will live longer. 100 inhalations, exhalations. Either you can finish 1 inhalation per second, so 100 seconds. Or you can do 10 minutes per inhalation, exhalation. And you increase your lifespan. So this is one of the ways which they say that if you can manage to hold your breath longer, there is a concept called kumbhak. even today, when you learn yoga in depth, they teach you Kumbhak. Of course, we don't have the capacity to hold it for that long. But clearly, the rishis were yogis at the end of the day. All of them were yogis. All of them practiced some sort of dhyan, pranayam, and that could have definitely helped. Along with everything else that the doctor previously was saying, right? The food you eat, the lifestyle you live, they all had a very, very physically active lifestyle. It wasn't like us, ki chalo, we are typing on the computer and doing our work. No, they had a very, very physically active lifestyle. The environment was cleaner. The food they ate was not hormone infused, right? So a lot of these things definitely impacted along with the practice of pranayama. So it's one of the, if you see the Shastras, pranayama is one of those tactics or one of those techniques which we have seen yogis perform all the time. So that's one of
Ami, it's very interesting, Ami, because Dr. Chatterjee was saying exactly this, but he brought in the aspect of modern science. You're taking us back in time, you're telling us that history's also had similar instructions for everyone. It's all about how closely you're following it. Talking about this historical context, let's go back to a few years, thousands of years, Ayurveda. That has found a mention in classical Indian literature. Tell us what Ayurveda tells us about longevity, about a healthy lifestyle, because that's been cited by several authors through the years while this discussion keeps coming up.
So let me connect it to one of the Puranic stories we have, and it connects back to Ayurveda. So there is this Rishi called Chyavan Rishi, and he's done a lot of penance, tapasya all his life. So he's become very old and frail and all of that. By some stroke of luck, he ends up getting this very, very beautiful young lady as his wife. Her name is Sukanya. Now, obviously, Sukanya wants a young husband, and even Chyavan wants to enjoy his life very well. So he does tapasya, we are told, of Ashwin, the Ashwins. So Ashwins are called the doctors of the Devatas. They are twin Devatas. They are called the doctors of the Devatas. And especially in the Vedas, whenever anybody has any health issue, the Ashwins will come and help them. So you're told to appease the Ashwins. So Chyavan Rishi appeases the Ashwins, and they come up with a procedure and a recipe through which Chyavan regains his youth. It's like anti-aging, as anti-aging as it can be. And that is called Chyavan Prash. So we have Chyavan, even today you see Chyavan Prash is sold everywhere. So this recipe of Chyavan Prash also comes from Ayurveda. And it, of course, it talks about immunity. I mean, if you are healthy, you will stay longer. It's common sense, right? So one of the things which Chyavan Prash, even in the recipe we have today, what it does is essentially improves your immunity. So if you're stronger internally, you will obviously be healthy and grow strong, live longer. So that is Chyavan Prash which we have till today. So how things connect, right? This idea of longevity and anti-aging has been there forever because this is a human mind. If I can, there is this beautiful question answer in Mahabharata. It's called a Yaksha Prashna. And in that, there is a Yaksha who's testing Yudhishthir, how smart he is and all of that. So one question is asked by Yaksha that, Kim Ashcharyam? What is the most surprising or shocking, whatever way you want to take it? Like, what is it that amazes? So Yudhishthir says, Ahani ahani cha bhutani gachanti yamalayam sheshaha sthavaram icchanti kim ashcharyam atha punam. So he basically says, every day, every single day people die, every single day. And even then, the people who stay back or who are left on planet Earth, they think they are going to live forever. And they think they will always survive. And that is how they live their lives, running after desires, chasing after dreams, non-stop. So he's saying, what can be more Ashcharyajanak than this? So it's going on till now.
Ami, it's been wonderful having you with us on the show. Thank you for showing us just how some of these concepts have been with us already for centuries. Thank you for joining us here on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we are into a very quick break. On the other side, we move back to a conversation which was held by Toya in Goa. We're talking about health tech once again. Can tech heal 1 billion lives? We return with this conversation from the Goa Health Tech Summit 2025.
Two suspects accused of firing at actor Disha Patni's home in Bareilly have been killed in an encounter in Ghaziabad. Reports suggest that both were linked to the Goldie Brar gang. The firing at Disha Patani's Bareilly residence took place on Friday evening when two bike-borne men fired 7 rounds outside the civil lines residence of the actor's family. We're getting a report from Ground Zero. This is what my colleague Deepak Bisht had to report.
उत्तर प्रदेश पुलिस की एसटीएफ टीम, दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ ने मिलकर एक ऐसे एनकाउंटर को यहां पर अंजाम दिया है जिसमें फिल्म अभिनेत्री दिशा पाटनी के घर पर फायरिंग करने वाले दोनों आरोपी यहां पर ढेर हुए हैं। ये तकरीबन 7:30 बजे के आसपास का एनकाउंटर है जो ट्रोनिका सिटी के पास में हुआ था, जब दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल को इनपुट मिला था कि दोनों बदमाश जो रविंदर और अरुण हैं इसी इलाके में आएंगे, जिसके बाद यहां पर ट्रैप लगाया गया। दोनों टीमों ने मिलकर, इन तीनों स्टेट्स की टीम जो यहाँ पर एक कोऑर्डिनेशन था, जॉइंट ऑपरेशन था, यूपी एसटीएफ, दिल्ली पुलिस की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ का। उसके बाद इसी जगह पर दोनों को ट्रैप किया गया, रोकने की कोशिश की गई, लेकिन इन बदमाशों ने पुलिस पार्टी पर फायरिंग कर दी। फायरिंग करने के बाद इनको घेरने की कोशिश की, जिसके बाद दोनों बदमाशों की गोलियां लगी। गोलियां लगने के बाद घायल हालत में उन्हें अस्पताल पहुंचाया गया और उसके बाद वहां पर डॉक्टरों ने उन्हें डेड जो है डिक्लेयर कर दी।
काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस यूनिट जो स्पेशल सेल की है उससे भी मदद ली गई और जब इनकी कई जगह पे लोकेशन आनी शुरू हुई जिसको लगातार ट्रेस किया जा रहा था, सीसीटीवी फुटेज, टेक्निकल एनालिसिस और जो मैनुअल इनपुट आया तो उससे ये चीज़ इस्टेब्लिश करने में मदद मिली कि जो घर पे फायरिंग करी गई थी उसमें जो रविंदर रोहतक और अरुण सोनीपत का शामिल है। फिर उनको जो ट्रेस करने के लिए संयुक्त रूप से काम शुरू हुआ तो आज ये सूचना प्राप्त हुई कि ये दिल्ली के रास्ते गाज़ियाबाद से होते हुए कहीं जाने वाले हैं। इस इनपुट पर संयुक्त टीम के द्वारा इनको रोकने का प्रयास किया गया, जिसमें इन्होंने संयुक्त टीम पर फायरिंग शुरू कर दी, जिससे पुलिस की टीम पे काफ़ी इन्होंने फायरिंग करी। आत्मरक्षा जब कंट्रोल तरीके से पुलिस ने इनका जवाब दिया तो जिसमें दोनों बदमाश घायल हुए, जिनको अस्पताल उपचार के लिए ले जाया गया, जहाँ इनको मृत घोषित कर दिया गया है।
And I'm joined by my colleague Anshul Singh on the broadcast to get more details as this entire case unfolds in Ghaziabad, where 2 suspects have been killed in an encounter. Anshul, what more details can you get for us?
So yes, this incident happened late in the evening today when both the accused who were on the run for the past 3 to 4 days since the time this entire incident had happened were finally traced down in a joint operation that was conducted by the Delhi Police Counterintelligence Unit of the Special Cell along with the Haryana STF and the Uttar Pradesh STF, where they coordinated and made sure that the accused is brought to the books. And eventually during the encounter that followed after the initial confrontation that happened between the accused and the police teams, the accused tried to fire towards the police officers is what the police claims, and then eventually in return fire both the accused were initially shot and then they were rushed to a nearby 50-bed hospital where both of them were eventually declared dead. But this is a big success that has yet again been generated by the Uttar Pradesh STF, 2 accused of the Goldie Brar gang who had gone ahead and fired shots outside the residence of famous actress Disha Patni in Bareilly. In just a matter of 5 days, they were identified, traced through CCTV footages and local intelligence, and eventually this drastic action was taken due to which both the accused are now dead. Now the next step of procedure is going to be that a judicial inquiry, a magisterial inquiry will happen as the SOP demands, and then eventually it remains to be seen if at all a clean sheet is given to the encountering agencies as well. So definitely a big success, and credit is being claimed by all the 3 agencies who maintain that it was a joint operation due to which this entire encounter has been successful.
Right, thank you Anshul for getting us those details. So a huge victory for the UP police when it comes to cracking down on the organized crime elements that were involved in this crime in Bareilly targeting Disha Patni's family.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
2 suspects accused of firing at actor Disha Patni's home in Bareilly have been killed in an encounter in Ghaziabad. Reports suggest that both were linked to the Goldie Brar gang. The firing at Disha Patani's Bareilly residence took place on Friday evening when two bike-borne men fired 7 rounds outside the civil lines residence of the actor's family. We're getting a report from Ground Zero. This is what my colleague Deepak Bisht had to report.
उत्तर प्रदेश पुलिस की एसटीएफ टीम, दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ ने मिलकर एक ऐसे एनकाउंटर को यहां पर अंजाम दिया है जिसमें फिल्म अभिनेत्री दिशा पाटनी के घर पर फायरिंग करने वाले दोनों आरोपी यहां पर ढेर हुए हैं। ये तकरीबन 7:30 बजे के आसपास का एनकाउंटर है जो ट्रोनिका सिटी के पास में हुआ था, जब दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल को इनपुट मिला था कि दोनों बदमाश जो रविंदर और अरुण हैं इसी इलाके में आएंगे, जिसके बाद
All right, welcome back. Next on The Breakfast Club, we bring you what we hope is a deeply interesting discussion. At a recent Health Tech Summit, we led a panel called Reimagining Healthcare for a Billion Lives. It asked what conversations around AI, around tech, these conversations that have become very common today, what they need to look like if they're to move beyond boardrooms.
So how do we make AI tech relevant to the billions who don't have access as yet? What does building AI for different groups across the country actually mean, actually look like? And what are the ethics involved there? It was a deeply illuminating discussion. Toya takes you through all those voices. Take a look at this excerpt.
I'd like to tell you that the 4 people on stage with me, some of them have come up to me and told me that these are the areas we need to talk about because we are not giving it enough attention. And it has been wonderful to hear that input. So we're going to try to do exactly that right now. I'm going to come over to each of you and ask you a little bit about what you do. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But Dr. Joydeepa, we'll start with you. The rural conversation. Let's go straight into it. All of the discussions you've watched today, to make them more relevant, because Dr. Joydeepa leads research at the Leprosy Mission, and you work intimately with rural women, for example. And in our conversations in the days leading up, you have said that one of the biggest questions is mental health. Something as simple as, how do you measure when someone is depressed? Usually you have parameters, and sometimes these parameters are far too Western. They need to be rewritten. But doctor, tell me, in how many ways do you reimagine the system needs to be rewritten?
So before I embark on this question, I just want to say that before research, I was in a rural hospital, 17 years, worked in a place called Purulia, which you'll know for arms drop, and notoriously, but and I work in a leprosy mission hospital which focuses on leprosy, but then we work as a primary care hospital for all other diseases. So I'm a family physician, and for me, a person who comes to the hospital is not a disease, it's a person. So when I reimagine the healthcare of rural India, or India for that matter, I would not think healthcare is provided in the hospitals. I would think healthcare is provided in the communities, and that it is owned by the communities. And with my experience in the Leprosy Mission, what all we have done by taking disability care at the doorstep of the patient through AI-operated vans, using 3D printing, also by doing livelihood for women who do not have economic means, but mixed groups. And also looking at mental health, recognizing them in the OPD by not specialized people, but by lay counselors with little counseling to recognize that a person has a disease plus an anxiety, a disease plus a depression, a disease plus a panic. So unless a holistic approach, community-based, is not adopted, we will not be able to probably do our justice to the healthcare in our country.
I don't want to take away from the point that you've made, but you have touched on something that I want you to elaborate on, the ways in which you are using tech. Because one of the conversations you've had is around how you are, for example, 3D printing boots.
Yes.
So, for example, current policies only give boots for certain sizes, and you
Yeah.
had to solve that.
So when we work with leprosy, because of the nature of the anesthetic feet and ulcers, we do get a lot of diabetic, we do get a lot of spine and neural and ectodermal diseases, and also children and many people with lots of orthopedic problems. So physiotherapy is good and the footwear departments are good. We make footwear for people. But then we went beyond. In 2015, we got a Google grant and we started doing 3D printing. We started innovating with that idea. And with that, we developed some kind of customized footwear for people. But then we saw that depending on Western technology made us more handicapped, because things get spoiled and you are stuck. Because in the customs, the repair parts will get stuck, the costs will be exorbitant, and the Google grant is just only for a few years. And then it is not sustainable. Then we hunt, and we found that there were startups in IITs. We collaborated with an IIT Delhi group, and then now we have this technology in all our 15 hospitals that we have in the country in 9 states. So now the people have access to that customized footwear, because if the routine products are given, that is in size 5, 6 and 7. But a person might have an high arch, they might have lost a great toe, they might have different kinds of foot problems. Then how do we give a normal footwear and expect them to continue having a good life? So this is how we have taken the technology. And we also have this van which takes the patient's footwear foot picture at his own house, and the picture goes to the department where in the hospital where the machine milling machine is there. They make the insole and they send it back, and the insole is put into the patient's footwear. So at the doorstep, it is helping. And telemedicine also in that same van happens with the doctor, and the patients are able to get disability care. Those who are not able to go to the hospital, most of them do not. So that's how
you're already using technology.
we do. Yeah, we also have the HMIS, which we started in 2008, and it's still up and running. We get data from there. We know the hotspots. We know where the limited resources needs to be concentrated, so that little resource does not get diluted. So all that is giving us good data enough to help us manage our resources better.
So I want to keep with this conversation around technology. And also, when you had said a little earlier that we need to talk more about the rural in conversations like this, I now want to come over to the Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor, you had said we're not talking enough about education and AI, and the many ways in which AI should be used in education. What is your vision, and what are you already trying to implement?
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all. My vision is that any medical management and the services, if we are talking about without talking about the innovations and the changes and modification in the medical education, then we are not talking and we are not doing the justice. So medical education is the spine of every health services, whether it's a rural or it's a urban or it's a inter-state level. So medical education, as a Vice Chancellor, I know there are many disparities as far as the different areas of a state is concerned. There are a policy that as many as medical colleges should be opened, and with the opening of medical colleges, the students is not a problem. Problem is the skilled teachers who are not there to give the proper education to the, and after result is that we are compromising in our quality of medical education. So what I feel, and which I practiced as a director AIIMS Bhopal, that we adopted many medical colleges across the MP as well as in the Uttar Pradesh. We telecasted our lectures live from our lecture theatre, which we are giving at AIIMS Bhopal for every student who is there, and they can attend it. The same way, same type of activity we perform for the nursing as well as paramedics, because only teaching the graduates, medical graduates is not enough unless until we have the nursing and paramedics.
I want to understand from you more closely though, when you say use AI to teach, because what you talked about right now was the importance of projecting. So for example, have a conversation, teach a class, have it be recorded, have that recording shared among students. But AI, how would you use that?
AI means if you are having the artificial intelligence modules in your lectures, because the medical education technology, most of the places, good places, good education institutes are involving the AI to educate their students in the form of making the lectures interactive and comprehensive, including the AI and the text knowledge. So if same knowledge and same content you are transmitting across, we are not recording and sending, we are these are the interactive sessions. Even the student sitting out the other way is able to understand and can ask you the same teacher. That is what I'm saying is very, very important, which needs a good interactive session as far as and the interaction of the AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to come back to you and ask you a little bit more about how you see this happening. But let's come over to this side. We'll go over Manoj first to you, and then Rajiv will come to you in a second. So Manoj works, well, he is the co-founder of NemoCare. And NemoCare creates these wearable devices that young babies wear, and they track all of their vitals everywhere from, well, these are largely deployed in hospitals, but hospitals in rural regions too. And I want to ask you a little bit about, because you're already using tech, and this one product I talked about, this is called Raksha, but wearable tech essentially you're at the forefront of. I want to ask you more about the challenges here, because this is a sector where we cover innovations all the time. But if you don't mind me saying, the big question, the big problem rather that founders tell us is funding. You have a rather innovative solution to that. So walk us through it.
Thanks for having me here. So we started this journey almost 8 years ago, and what we tried to solve was, picking up from the last speaker, standardizing protocols for care for newborns, even in the NICU. And the problem we wanted to solve was lack of manpower, the hardest to reach places. Can we give standardized care there? And we use a tool of technology, which is in the form of wearables and an AI platform. So some challenges, if I can touch upon those, was the first thing is, can I get data from the hard to reach places to the cloud? 8 years ago, to my surprise, even the most remote specialized newborn care units had Wi-Fi accessible. They had designed these systems for the future, something that we leveraged upon. We were fortunate when we decided saying, okay, let's solve this problem, but let's solve for the next 10 years, that when this solution is out there, it can be at par. It took us 7 years to build a product and get out there. So we put in the form of wearables, no wires, no leads, care continuum across the step-down units to Kangaroo Mother Care to even the facility. We were fortunate to get funded by the Gates Foundation, BIRAC, DST. We had several grant funding agencies which saw that, yes, this approach might solve a problem when the timing is going to be right for it. And they invested and bet on us. So that helped us actually start this work.
I want to thank all of you, because what we've talked about today is just how to take this conversation further from rooms like this to actually implementing change. Thank you so much for joining us.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Two suspects accused of firing at actor Disha Patni's home in Bareilly have been killed in an encounter in Ghaziabad. Reports suggest that both were linked to the Goldie Brar gang. The firing at Disha Patani's Bareilly residence took place on Friday evening when two bike-borne men fired 7 rounds outside the civil lines residence of the actor's family. We're getting a report from Ground Zero. This is what my colleague Deepak Bisht had to report.
उत्तर प्रदेश पुलिस की एसटीएफ टीम, दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ ने मिलकर एक ऐसे एनकाउंटर को यहां पर अंजाम दिया है जिसमें फिल्म अभिनेत्री दिशा पाटनी के घर पर फायरिंग करने वाले दोनों आरोपी यहां पर ढेर हुए हैं। ये तकरीबन 7:30 बजे के आसपास का एनकाउंटर है जो ट्रोनिका सिटी के पास में हुआ था, जब दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल को इनपुट मिला था कि दोनों बदमाश जो रविंदर और अरुण हैं इसी इलाके में आएंगे, जिसके बाद यहां पर ट्रैप लगाया गया। दोनों टीमों ने मिलकर, इन तीनों स्टेट्स की टीम जो यहां पर एक कोऑर्डिनेशन था, जॉइंट ऑपरेशन था, यूपी एसटीएफ, दिल्ली पुलिस की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ का। उसके बाद इसी जगह पर दोनों को ट्रैप किया गया, रोकने की कोशिश की गई, लेकिन इन बदमाशों ने पुलिस पार्टी पर फायरिंग कर दी। फायरिंग करने के बाद इनको घेरने की कोशिश की, जिसके बाद दोनों बदमाशों के गोलियां लगी। गोलियां लगने के बाद घायल हालत में उन्हें अस्पताल पहुंचाया गया और उसके बाद वहां पर डॉक्टरों ने उन्हें डेड जो है डिक्लेयर कर दी।
काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस यूनिट जो स्पेशल सेल की है उससे भी मदद ली गई और जब इनकी कई जगह पे लोकेशन आनी शुरू हुई जिसको लगातार ट्रेस किया जा रहा था, सीसीटीवी फुटेज, टेक्निकल एनालिसिस और जो मैनुअल इनपुट आया तो उससे ये चीज़ इस्टेब्लिश करने में मदद मिली कि जो घर पे फायरिंग करी गई थी उसमें जो रविंदर रोहतक और अरुण सोनीपत का शामिल है। फिर उनको जो ट्रेस करने के लिए संयुक्त रूप से काम शुरू हुआ तो आज ये सूचना प्राप्त हुई कि ये
Okay, welcome back. Now to take you to the story of Parshuram, warrior sage, one of Vishnu's most complex avatars. For centuries, he's been remembered as the man with the axe who beheaded kings, yet also a teacher of martial arts and philosophy.
Now, we wanted to break down for you a story around this as writer Ranjit Radhakrishnan takes that paradox head on in his new book, Blade of Fury. CNN News 18's Anand Narasimhan sat down with him. Take a look. This is the conversation.
But how do you do it? And how did it come? And why is it that you decided to call it Rama of the Axe? So let's start from there.
Okay, that's an interesting question because we don't know too much about Parshurama. It's like, in the movies, he's doing a cameo, special guest appearance in grand narratives of somebody else's story. And we know he's the sixth avatar, and we have this general perception that he's this very angry, violent, immensely powerful warrior, but nothing more than that. So there are two stories that happen that's behind this. One, I stayed in Trivandrum for a couple of years. I visited all the temples there, but there was this one temple on the outskirts of Thiruvananthapuram where the main deity is Parshurama. And nobody mentioned the temple to me. I haven't visited it. But from 1999 onwards, there were a series of deaths in my family. And, after a year is over, you go and do a set of rituals. And I kept going back to this temple. So my first, darshan of Parshurama was for a death ritual. And that's when I started to, get more curious about what is this avatar all about? I don't know much about Parshurama, other than that he's the sixth avatar. And that's when the curiosity sparked. And this moment, this aha moment to write a story came when I got to know about this temple in the north of Karnataka. It's in a place called Savdatti, and the deity is Yellamma. Now that Yellamma is actually Parshurama's mother, Renuka, was a major revelation to me. So Shitala Devi, Yellamma, Mariamman, a Devi's head on a kalasha, all this connects back to Renuka and through her to a Mahavidya, that is Machakasta. So this was, I had already written a short story that was published in an anthology called Unsung Valor. So I had to put this down, it was lockdown time. I had nothing better to do. So I got down writing and luckily Westland picked it up. But the interesting thing about this is when I was researching the story, and since we don't have something definitive about Parshurama, like we have the Ramayana for Sri Ram, the Bhagavad Sri Krishna, we don't have one text. It's just bits and pieces of stories here and there. A little bit of mention in some of the Puranas, especially the Brahmanda. So while researching, I come across this blog by this person who goes under the name of Manasa Tarangini. And I think he's a Bhargava himself. And he mentions that during the 15th and 16th century, there was this Maratha chieftain. His name is Sabaji Pratap, and he had this Jagir in Ahmednagar somewhere. And he came across this collection of texts. And the names of the texts are mind-blowing because it's Agastya Mahatmyam, you have the Tatya Purana, you have a Brigu Vamsha Kavya, and you have a Parashu Ramayana.
Wow.
So the text exists. Where it is now, nobody knows. I don't know whether the families are holding it. No, they have these texts with them. And this is in ancient Telugu, it's not in Sanskrit. And he's compiled it, he's kept it somewhere. Either, they haven't released it as yet, or they don't know they possess this. I hope that comes out. Till then, you'll have to do the Rama of the Axe. And coming to the axe part of it, it struck me as a little strange that such a mighty warrior, he has all the Divyastras you can think of. And he does this intense tapasya to Mahadev, and the reward is an axe. Why would somebody give him an axe when he has all these astras there? There has to be a greater meaning to it. You have a lot of symbolic meaning to the Trishul, to the Sudarshan Chakra, and also to one other weapon that was given by Mahadev to Ravan. That's the sword, Chandrahas.
Chandrahas.
And it leaves him as soon as he commits an act of adharma. So that's where the thinking came that, probably there is something more to the axe. And I can use this as a symbol to show his spiritual journey and how the spirituality and what deeds he achieves on the mortal plane are both interconnected. So that's how I titled it Rama of the Axe.
So, I remember when I saw the title Rama of the Axe, what came to mind was Arun Govil as Ram, when he meets Parshuram and he says, Aap bhi Ram hai, main bhi Ram. So, it is just that you are in a different yuga, I am in a different yuga, but we are both Ram. You are known as Parshuram because you wield the axe, and I wield the dhanush. So there is a conversation which happens saying that our yugas are different, but we are perhaps origins are back to the same roots from whom Varaha came, you came, and then now I have come. So the avatar of Vishnu. But to when you don't have a scripture with Ramayana, like you said, with Mahabharata, with Ganesha, with Shiva, there is so much in the Puranas, there is so much in our Itihasa to be able to cull out a story and then obviously allow that creative element to come through where the writer takes that leap of creativity and imagination. But in the case of Parshuram, how is it? And when I thought that you're writing about Parshuram, I thought you will bring Kalari into it because they worship him as the sage, as the originator of Kalari.
Its Kalari is there in book 2.
I didn't find it in the first book, I found it here.
So there's an interesting thing about Kalari here because when I was bringing this into the book, I couldn't find a Sanskrit name for Kalari. Kalari Payattu is a Malayalam derived name. So I did my research, I asked a lot of people, and finally I had to coin a word for Kalari Payattu in Sanskrit and then ask them, is this okay? And that's how I have the name there. The same with the weapon Urumi.
What is the name?
I couldn't find a name.
No, what is the name that you have given?
The Naga Khatga. The serpent sword. I have an entire chapter
That's for
on
the
that.
Urmi, but I'm saying for Kalari, what is the name that you have given?
Kalorika Prayoga. So I tried to get it as close as possible to Kalari Payattu, and I checked with Sanskrit Pandits, and there's a friend of mine called Vijay Krishna Nair who helped me with this, and that is what we finally decided on. So these challenges were there when, and there are two schools of Kalari. One is Parashurama and one is Agastya, which is why Agastya has such a major role in part 2 of the book. And there is a spiritual side to Kalari too. And it links to the 7 chakras, the 7 matrikas and all that. And this book 2 is an exploration of that. See, book 1, a few people who have heard of Parashurama know about his, that climactic confrontation with Kartavir Arjuna. What happens after that, not too many people know. It's like people read the Mahabharata and they stop after the Kurukshetra battle, they don't know what happens after that. There's a lot that happens. So there's a lot that happens to Parashurama after that battle too. And for somebody who has a hymn in the Rig Veda and someone who has a very important tantric text in his name called the Parashurama Kalpa Sutra, you're looking at one avatar who's bringing these two streams together. And how do you, connect these little bits of stories here and there into a plot and make it a readable story was the challenge for book 2.
Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Two suspects accused of firing at actor Disha Patni's home in Bareilly have been killed in an encounter in Ghaziabad. Reports suggest that both were linked to the Goldie Brar gang. The firing at Disha Patni's Bareilly residence took place on Friday evening when two bike-borne men fired 7 rounds outside the civil lines residence of the actor's family. We're getting a report from Ground Zero. This is what my colleague Deepak Bisht had to report.
उत्तर प्रदेश पुलिस की एसटीएफ टीम, दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ ने मिलकर एक ऐसे एनकाउंटर को यहां पर अंजाम दिया है जिसमें फिल्म अभिनेत्री दिशा पाटनी के घर पर फायरिंग करने वाले दोनों आरोपी यहां पर ढेर हुए हैं। ये तकरीबन 7:30 बजे के आसपास का एनकाउंटर है जो ट्रोनिका सिटी के पास में हुआ था, जब दिल्ली पुलिस की स्पेशल सेल को इनपुट मिला था कि दोनों बदमाश जो रविंदर और अरुण हैं इसी इलाके में आएंगे, जिसके बाद यहां पर ट्रैप लगाया गया। दोनों टीमों ने मिलकर, इन तीनों स्टेट्स की टीम जो यहाँ पर एक कोऑर्डिनेशन था, जॉइंट ऑपरेशन था, यूपी एसटीएफ, दिल्ली पुलिस की काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस और हरियाणा एसटीएफ का, उसके बाद इसी जगह पर दोनों को ट्रैप किया गया। रोकने की कोशिश की गई लेकिन इन बदमाशों ने पुलिस पार्टी पर फायरिंग कर दी। फायरिंग करने के बाद इनको घेरने की कोशिश की, जिसके बाद दोनों बदमाशों की गोलियां लगी। गोलियां लगने के बाद घायल हालत में उन्हें अस्पताल पहुंचाया गया और उसके बाद वहां पर डॉक्टरों ने उन्हें डेड जो है डिक्लेयर कर दी।
काउंटर इंटेलिजेंस यूनिट जो स्पेशल सेल की है उससे भी मदद ली गई और जब इनकी कई जगह पे लोकेशन आनी शुरू हुई जिसको लगातार ट्रेस किया जा रहा था, सीसीटीवी फुटेज, टेक्निकल एनालिसिस और जो मैनुअल इनपुट आया तो उससे ये चीज़ इस्टेब्लिश करने में मदद मिली कि जो घर पे फायरिंग करी गई थी उसमें जो रविंदर रोहतक और अरुण सोनीपत का शामिल है। फिर उनको जो ट्रेस करने के लिए संयुक्त रूप से काम शुरू हुआ तो आज ये सूचना प्राप्त हुई कि ये दिल्ली के रास्ते गाज़ियाबाद से होते हुए कहीं जाने वाले हैं। इस इनपुट पर संयुक्त टीम के द्वारा इनको रोकने का प्रयास किया गया, जिसमें इन्होंने संयुक्त टीम पर फायरिंग शुरू कर दी, जिससे पुलिस की टीम पे काफ़ी इन्होंने फायरिंग करी। आत्मरक्षा जब कंट्रोल तरीके से पुलिस ने इनका जवाब दिया तो जिसमें दोनों बदमाश घायल हुए, जिनको अस्पताल उपचार के लिए ले जाया गया, जहाँ इनको मृत घोषित कर दिया गया है।
And I'm joined by my colleague Anshul Singh on the broadcast to get more details as this entire...
Good morning, you're watching the breaking news show right here on CNN News 18. My name is Toya Singh and over the next 1 hour we're going to bring you all of the country's top stories at this hour. Let's start very quickly though with all of the headlines. First, the Education Ministry directing CBSE and KV, different schools across the country, to screen films inspired by the Prime Minister's childhood, but the opposition slams the centre, saying it's unacceptable. And in international news, after Pakistan and Saudi Arabia inked defence deals, India says it'll study the implications. Wait and watch. And in Air India plane crashes, the pilot's father writes to the centre, says that AAIB report has tarnished his son's reputation. This is in the crash that we covered that took place months ago. They've demanded a fresh probe. And the Assam BJP's AI video has sparked massive controversy. The BJP says large-scale infiltration is taking place. The opposition calls it a repulsive Hindutva ideology. And CCTV footage of bike-borne shooters firing at Disha Patani's home has now surfaced. Two gunmen that were involved in this firing have now been killed in an alleged police encounter. And another India versus Pakistan clash with Neeraj Chopra versus Arshad Nadeem in javelin finals at the World Athletics Championship. And Pakistan beat the UAE to enter Super Fours to face India on Sunday in the Asia Cup. And in Uttarakhand, a cloudburst hit Uttarakhand's Chamoli. Several houses are damaged, 5 people are missing, and we'll bring you the latest on the rescue operations. First, diplomatic developments. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have signed a new strategic mutual defense agreement. What does this mean? Well, under the pact, an attack on either country could be considered an aggression against both. The agreement was signed by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Now, the deal comes days after an Israeli strike in Doha targeting Hamas leaders reportedly. But the US has criticized this initial attack as a unilateral attack. Now, in response, India's Ministry of External Affairs has acknowledged the signing. The Indian government says that it's aware of the development and assured that it will closely study its implications on national security and regional stability. I'm going to bring you more context here. We're also waiting for reporters to join us and tell us a little bit more. Siddhant, first tell us broadly, and we'll come to you with more questions. But first, for India, what does this effectively mean? For example, if there's another India versus Pakistan situation that comes up like what we saw a few months ago, what does this effectively mean for India?
Well, Toya, it is very important to put things in context. So this defense cooperation between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan is nothing new. This has been going on from last many decades. In fact, the Pakistani army has trained the army of Saudi Arabia. In fact, their unit is stationed in Riyadh, etc., etc. So all these things are already in public domain now. Yesterday, during the visit to Riyadh, Shehbaz Sharif and Asim Munir's visit to Riyadh, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia has signed strategic mutual defense agreement. So, as per this agreement, an attack against one country would be seen as an attack against the other country. Against both countries. But such agreements are often about protecting Saudi land by renting Pak army, not the other way around. But still, this pact has raised eyebrows in India. And in fact, there's a statement which has come from Ministry of External Affairs. And Ministry of External Affairs' statement says that Government of India was aware that this agreement has been in consideration. India will study the implication of this development for its national security as far as regional and global stability is concerned. And government remains committed to protecting India's national interest and ensuring comprehensive national security in all domains. So as I said, that this arrangement between the Saudi army and Pakistani army is nothing new. They have a deep defense cooperation, which has been going on from last many decades. Even Pakistani army has trained Saudi army, and they have their teams also deployed in Riyadh. But this is for the first time that such an agreement has been signed between the two sides, that if an attack on one country, then it will be considered as an attack on the other country as well. So it definitely has an implication on India's security, India's national interest, and perhaps this is the reason a response has come from Ministry of External Affairs. Toya.
Okay, and Siddhant, to understand more, because I understand that you just said that two things are true at the same time. Firstly, that a relationship has existed between both of these countries for years now, a strategic relationship exactly like this one, but also that this is in some ways very significant. So Siddhant, if we wanted to understand from you exactly what this would mean, so would it actually mean that Saudi Arabia's allies, Saudi Arabia's other partners would also step up if anything happened to Pakistan? How do we understand this more?
Well, this has to do that if tomorrow Saudi Arabia is attacked or aggression has been shown towards Saudi Arabia by any other country, so that would also be considered as an aggression shown towards the Pakistani land. It's kind of a NATO kind of a of an agreement which has been signed between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Now, also, Toya, very important to highlight the context in which this has been signed. So, this is after Israel's rising aggression in the Middle East, which has brought Pakistan in the bigger game. In fact, the rising tension in the Middle East, we just had Israel violating Qatar's sovereignty. Perhaps that has definitely raised concern with the Gulf state of their security. And perhaps this is one of the reasons that immediately this agreement has been signed between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. So now the Gulf states are also looking for more security agreements, arrangements with the friends and partner countries. And this definitely has to do with Israel's recent attack on Qatar.
Okay, Siddhant, thank you for bringing us these details. Okay, let's bring you more around this defense agreement. Let's take a look. Okay, the Saudi Prime Minister and Crown Prince has signed a strategic mutual defense agreement with the nuclear armed Pakistan, and Pakistan's Field Marshal COS Asim Munir was also present at this signing ceremony. It took place in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Top sources revealing to CNN News 18 that multiple MOUs were signed at the time. To understand more, let's go over to our colleague Akanksha Swaroop. Akanksha, coming over to you. Can you tell us first about the other MOUs that were signed?
Right. A very good morning to you, Toya. In fact, in inputs that have been shared with the securities editor, Mr. Manoj Gupta, what we are learning is that these are MOUs signed also on rare earth minerals, petrochemical exploration and investments in Pakistan. So you can see that after pitching this to the United States, they are now taking